Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dead Money. Alright, that's enough of that. Yeah, like and subscribe if you want to hear more of this. Or don't like and don't subscribe. I don't really give a shit. I'm gonna die one day either way. And something tells me when I'm at the gates of either heaven or hell that God, or whatever other completely made-up entity that no one has ever seen, yet all thinks it's our job to placate around the clock, is going to ask me how many likes and subscribes my podcast channel got as a key determinant for which door I get to go through. Now, it's not that I'm an atheist. I think God and godliness exists inside of you. That's all. Just not in the form of some old, huge, bearded man that floats around in the clouds. And also, not to get all megaphone preacher on the street like, but heaven and hell is right here on earth, people. You decide which one you want it to be. Most people choose hell. I certainly do. But I put a little more thought into it because in a way, hell is more fun. There's something heavenly about hell, and there's something hellish about heaven because when things go too smoothly for too long, you just get bored. And what's worse than boredom? And when hellish times finally turn around for a couple of seconds, you feel extra amazing. So, all of this is to say is, heaven is overrated and hell is underrated. Anyway, so I've been sick for almost a week. I did my best to mask it last week so that you guys wouldn't get worried, but maybe you can still hear it in me this week. And of course, even when I'm not physically sick, I still feel sick all the time anyway, because playing poker is something of an act in self-loathing. But I did play a couple of brief sessions on Friday and Saturday, and I might go out again Sunday night. But I played for 1 hour of 2-3 at South Point on Friday, and close to 3 hours of 1-3 last night, Saturday night, at the Wynn, while the boring F1 race was going on. Now, most often when I drop in on these lower stakes games, I usually can't take more than 1 to 2 hours of it because it's too much of what I would imagine daycare would be like. And another thing I just want to clarify, strictly for egoistic purposes, I am not a 1-3 player, okay? So don't ever get it fucking twisted. I have played not even 35 hours of 1-3 or 2-3 this whole year. The reason I do play it sometimes is because poker still has a few breaths of fun left in it, and it's always very entertaining for the 1 to 2 hours I typically put into it. Because I can get about 6 to 8 hours worth of stories to repeat in about 2 hours because the play is that bad and the people are that stupid. So, let's talk about both. I didn't say much to anybody during the South Point game, but within the first 15 minutes, I opened 15 under the gun with King 9 of Hearts. There's 2 calls. And then an old man coffee in the small blind raises to 50. 3 bets to 50. Well under the pot size. Big blind calls all in for 39 total. And me and the OMC are about 600 deep. That's the max buy-in there. And because of the putridly bullshit size he used, I thought about either shoving or 4-betting to a committing size. Meaning if he jams, I have to call off. But I just got here, and this is an old man coffee. And this is 2-3. So we know there's a more than fair chance he just has no idea how to size and therefore has nothing to do with how strong his 3-bet range from the small blind is going to be. And given the fact he's already made this gigantic mistake, there's no need to get fancy. You're already gaining a bunch of EV because of this error he's made. So I can just call and take the sick price he's giving me. Now, the only other problem is if I call, it's pretty likely we're going to have to go 4 ways post-flop, and I'm going to be out of position against the other 2 players. Plus, we got the shorty who's all in. So it's not a good dilemma. I mean, calling is going to have its annoying downsides to it, but I think 4-bet jamming is too risky because it's just taking too much of a blind shot. If the guy had shown me he has clear sizing tells when he 3-bets, then that changes everything. But I just got here, so I don't have any info. So I take the safe route and call because also sometimes you just have to remember to have a little fucking faith in yourself to play after the flop. If it goes 4 ways, then fine, it goes 4 ways. Not to mention, there's a chance it doesn't go 4 ways. We've all seen that before. in either a 3-bet pot or maybe even a single race pot, where the guy closing the action is getting an insane price, going like at least 5 ways. He has to put in like $15 when there's like already $100 out there, and he folds. That happens sometimes. But it went 4 ways, and I didn't flop that much. It comes 7-8-3, 2 diamonds and a heart, and Old Man Coffee bets 100. And I folded happily at this point. Okay, we know he has a big hand, and he just doesn't know how to size. Then one player calls, and the turn is 6 of hearts. 2-tone board now, and now I got a million outs, even though I have no outs because I folded, but could have had a million outs. I mean, I'm just praying, don't do it to me. Now the OMC, he puts the other guy all in. He also had very little left. He calls it off, and of course the river is the 4 of hearts, so he makes the second nut flush, obviously. Old Man Coffee turns over pocket queens, but he loses because the guy who just called all in on the turn, he had the 7-4 offsuit and river 2 pair. And the short stack all in, he had king 10 suited, so he had nothing. So 7-4 offsuit doubles up, stacks the other short stack, and collects all this other dead money. Now, of course, I didn't regret anything about my decision to flat, because the thing I feared the most was totally happening. The OMC had a huge hand, and he just sized very poorly. Now, of course, the question still is, had I jammed or 4-bet to like 300, is he going to go with the pocket queens there? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I can see that going either way. But if he does, then now I would have sucked out in a really big pot, not far from 1,300, or he just folds. And then the other 2 players fold, and then I stack the short stack, leaving the OMC happy to see he made the wrong fold since my hand turned into a flush. But all in all, I'm happy with my decision, even though it wound up with the worst possible result. The hilarious part, though, is hearing the OMC moan and groan about how unlucky he got and how everyone at the table is just agreeing with him. I kept my mouth shut, but yeah, I really wanted to scream. Maybe if you had some fucking idea as to how to size your hand, this wouldn't have happened. Now look, I know losing to 7-4 offsuit in this situation was running pretty crappy, but you know something? Fuck you. You make your own luck, and when you play a hand crappily, you deserve to lose it, okay? I don't give a shit how strong your hand was. When you play it like a fucking infant, you deserve to be punished. And he was. So good. Fuck him. But he and I would play a couple more hands. One was blind versus blind. South Point doesn't let you chop, which is my favorite thing about the whole room. Of course, the reason you can't chop is because of all their promotions, which they rape you on. I mean, they're taking $7 out of every pot, and it's just fucking savage. I'm not going to play there again for that reason. It's too much. I know the reg is only $5, and the extra $2 is part of the promotion I could conceivably get back someday, but that happens so rarely that I just see it as extra rake. Anyway, so I had moved seats. It folds over to the Old Man Coffee in the small blind. He makes it 13. I defend big blind with 10-9 off. Flop was something like king 10-5 with 2 hearts. I do not have a heart. He confidently bets 15. A little annoying, but all right, I call. Let's see what develops. Turn is an ace, and he checks. Now this could get interesting. I bet 50 close to the pot, and he calls. He's got about 300 left, maybe a little more. I'm going to jam the river. But then the river was a jack, so now any queen is a straight. And that actually only made me even more comfortable with jamming if he checks, but he did not check. He jams. Okay, fold. Thanks a lot. So you bet small when you should bet big with the pocket queens pre-flop, and you bet big when you should bet small, going 2 times the pot on the river on a 4-liner straight. Classic OMC. I am wondering, though, what his starting hand was. I mean, did he run some crazy trap with queen jack, or did he just have king queen? Did he have ace queen? I mean, I don't know. So one last hand at South Point. There was a middle position raised to 15. OMC calls in the cutoff. And I almost folded 9-7 of diamonds on the button, but come on. We're all deep enough. I have position. I cannot be folding this, least of all in a game where the blinds are never squeezing light. Flop is queen 7-4, all clubs. They check. I don't think I have to check here, but I did. And turn is another 4. All right, that looks good. Checks back to me. Now I bet 18 and the OMC calls. River is another queen, so the board has double paired and I have the second pair sandwiched in between and my 9 kicker is in play. He thinks a little, he checks, and I missed a bet here. I mean, I can just spit on him for like $10 and try and get his ace highs to call. If he raises, I can call, since the whole point of the tiny bet is to get action one way or another. And if he calls with 8s or 9s, all right, so what? But I checked. And you know what he turns over? I almost laughed. He turns over King Jack offsuit with no clubs. He calls this turn bet from me, and I didn't go super small. He calls this turn bet with only king high, and he didn't even have a club. And if he hits his jack, it's not even top pair. You know, what did this guy think was going to happen? I mean, he has 6 cards of which he can improve with, but 2 of them bring a club, so really it's more like 4 outs. Because if a club hits, I might think at first I just have to give up and lose to his flushes, but we know he's going to check if he pairs one of the 2 cards that puts 4 clubs out there. And once he does that, I may just decide to go ham and blast like 150 or 200. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big dramatic hand or anything, but oh my god, sometimes you're in a 1-3 game that seems way too nitty to waste any time in, but you know something, just give it a little time, because you're going to be amazed at some of the hands people decide to get the showdown with, torching like it's their last day on Earth. God. So after an hour I left. I got my fix. Won $71. What more can you ask for from Las Vegas on a Friday night? Which brings us to Saturday night at the Wynn. And as soon as I sat down, I walked in there with a chip on my shoulder. I mean, like, not really, but a little. And I made up my mind I was going to be a smartass every chance I got without getting over the top about it or even taking things too far. I mean, I don't know if I've perfected it, but I am well seasoned in irritating other players without being a flagrant cunt about it. Meaning I stay within certain boundaries that which demonstrate I'm not doing anything or saying anything that's truly unwelcome, at least in my opinion. So here's how things start. Under the gun limps, he's a small stack. We know he's fishy. Folds over. Button raises to 15. I make it 61 in the small blind because that's more than 60. I have ace-9 of clubs. Short stack goes all in for $71 total. Button folds. I tank call the last $10. And the board runs king 10 6. Then I turn to flush draw with another 6. And then I catch a 9 on the river for a pair, but he says straight and turns over queen jack of clubs. So that's annoying. But I was only 58% to win going in pre-flop. Next hand I play, this white girl comes back to her seat, and she straddles. Folds to me. I make it 20 in the cutoff with queen 5 of spades because I was mad. Without the straddle, you can probably get away with this at 1-3. I mean, with the straddle on, I think now we're pushing it a little bit, but whatever. It's a free country, sort of. She defends her straddle. We're heads up. Flop is 9-8-3 rainbow, but I got the backdoor draws. She check calls 15. Turn is a 3. She checks again, and I hate being in these spots, but I just check back. Just play the river. River is a jack, and she checks again. I go around 2x pot like 135, I think, and she snap folds. And this is a spot where I'm fine with betting big on the river. I just wonder if I'm free rolling myself by using this size, because I think at 1-3, people are paying less attention to your size. They're not going to think as much, nearly as much, about the size relative to the pot. It's just more like, do they want to call this bet? But whatever, I won. What a life. I started to really want a piece of her, though, because I saw her calling raises pre with some really spewy hands like Jack 9 off in the small blind. And that, of course, is all par for the 1-3 course. But it wasn't just that, you know? She was given this subtle aura of cockiness. I mean, it wasn't like that bad. She wasn't really bad company. But this aura was there. And as I said here when talking with AJ Gonzalez in episode 47, the players I relish beating the most are this type. The ones who, whether they're winning players or not, because some pure fish are like this too, are the types who have this arrogance to them. They're full of themselves and think they're way better than they are. They're not pros. They're people who play pickup basketball once in a while, do well in that, and think they belong in the NBA. That's the type I'm talking about. Nothing is more satisfying than punishing those types who just look at you and all your many, many years of experience, don't know who the hell you are, where the hell you've been in this game, and they just think, whatever, I'll just play. I really sensed this from her when I saw her take some lines with value hands that you don't normally see at any limit, never mind 1-3. And I'm not even hating on the lines she took or denying that she has any strength at all. But I'm just getting bloodthirsty at her way of being surrounding all the things she's trying to do. And plus, I can't stand white women more than any other person type on the whole planet, okay? I would rather fuck a fire hydrant. But whatever. We'll get back to her and her, ooh, look at me, I'm straddling. But first, the guy on my left comes back to the table. He buys the button. It folds to me. I have 10-7 off. I raise to 12, and he calls. Now, I'd played a few hands to this point, and it always raised to 15. This time, I only made it 12, which I know we saw earlier. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be read into any sort of way by anybody, no less everybody, but either way, I think I should just stick with my normal size. I mean, the 12 does allow him to peel wider than if it's 15, which is kind of a good thing because my hand is so bad, but even so, I think sticking with the same size is best. So the flop is 8-6-3 rainbow. Not bad. He check calls 20. Turns a deuce. 4-5 is the nuts. 2 diamonds now. He checks. And this is annoying. You know, when you barrel flop without that great of a hand and then the turn is just this total undercard or it pairs the bottom card. I mean, those are cards that your opponent is going to like if they had liked the flop. So if it didn't give them a nutted hand, it is a card they're likely to not fold to as they would be to a ton of others. But he probably won't check call turn with anything that's like really strong. So maybe I can just triple going huge on the river depending on what it is. But, you know, I'm still new to the game, so I don't know who thinks what or anything. I mean, it's just not as comfortable a time to run a bluff when you don't have any information on the guy. And also, I mean, look, I know it's a smaller game, but no matter what game I'm playing, I'm always thinking of it in terms of what's relative to that game. Like, I don't think of $150 the same at 1-3 as I would at 2-5 or any limit. It's like I will get scared by a $150 bet in a 1-3 game if it feels really strong and looks really strong from a certain player. It's like, it's not the money I'm afraid of. It's the situation, and the situation means losing money. So who cares how much fucking money it is? You don't want to lose money unnecessarily. If you really think you're beat, you should fold to $150 as easily as you would fold to $15,000. So for as many triple barrel overbet jam river bluffs, I'm always keeping an eye open towards running. One thing no one can deny is it's a bit stressful. And it's exhausting, wearing on you mentally, when you're constantly bracing yourself to run big bluffs. But you know something? You just gotta get over that because it makes fucking money. And plus my hand has some equity. He's gonna fold this turn sometimes, but I don't know. I just didn't want to do it. I can still win on the river. So I check, and the river is another 6. Backdoor flush misses. He checks. And I just wave the fucking white flag, and he has Jack-8 offsuit, so he flop top pair. We know he's not folding that turn. And that wouldn't have been a terrible river to give up on if you want to be results oriented. But afterwards he says, proudly, I was calling anything. If you bet 200, which is about 3 times the pot, maybe I fold. Maybe if you bet 200. And I'm just like nodding my head and smirking a little bit. And I'm just like, okay. Not being abrasive. But then I say, you bet 200, I might call. Ah ha 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 ha, ah ha 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 ha, fucking stupid. Afterwards, I was left wondering if he calls the 15 pre-flop since he didn't call the 12 right away. You know, I talk about using the same size. Yeah, maybe it really fucked me here. Who knows? We'll never know. Next hand, I have ace-jack offsuit in the small blind. Folds over to me. I raise to 15. The big blind calls, and it's the same guy I just played the 10-7 offsuit pot with, so we know he likes to talk. We're both 500 effective. And the flop, I think, was ace, deuce, 3, 2 hearts, and I don't have hearts. I ended up checking, and he checked. I don't think the population will bluff the flop very often to begin with, especially when it's ace high. And he can have some calls that would check if given the chance, but I'm not counting on getting 3 streets from this, even though it has the potential to. Blind versus blind, the ranges can get obscenely wide with people over-defending because they hate it when you raise their blind instead of chopping with them, so I just wanted to check and see what happened. And he checked. No surprise there. Turn is the 6 of hearts, so there's 3 hearts now. Normally I bet here, but I actually checked again, and he bet 20. And I think raising is fine, but I didn't. I called. And the river was an ace. Okay. And then I decided to min bet. I bet $3. And he thinks a little, and he calls, and I win, so I didn't get the raise I wanted to. And I don't think I played this hand that great. I mean, the flop and turn is probably fine, but I guess I just thought he'd check back too many rivers, which is why I bet. But I don't know about getting cute with the min bet. I mean, if I bet like 30%, I can probably get called, but a hand that would call 30% isn't likely to bother with raising a min bet. So it's really just a matter of getting him to bluff, which might actually happen more often if I check than if I min bet, because the min bet looks so weird. He may have bluffed 35 or 40 if I checked, but once I min bet, even though he knows he's going to lose, he may just pay the $3 to see what my hand is. So this wasn't necessary, but it at least shows everyone you're trying to think about things beyond the most basic of levels, and that can have an impact later on. So then 2 orbits later, it's blind versus blind again. I have ace-7 offsuit. I raised to 15 again, and now he 3-bets to something normal, probably 45 or 50. I fold, and he shows a 3 of clubs. Now my ace was not a club, so he probably just had ace-3 of clubs. If he's trying to show a garbage hand, he's probably just going to show both rags instead of one. When people show you half a bluff, unless it's impossible for the other card to be nutted, the other card is often going to be nutted. But either way, it's just like, I get so tilted when people show weak cards in these spots, but not because they outplayed me. I get tilted because they think that's going to be tilting and get them called in a huge pot later. So technically they're right about it tilting me, but they're right for the wrong reason. So that means they don't deserve any fucking credit whatsoever. So he shows this card. I look at him and say, that hurts. Then he says, oh, well, you don't want to be friends and chop, so I guess that means we have to battle. Yeah, 3-bet what was probably a suited ace in position, blind versus blind. Oh yeah, really takes guts to do that. I mean, what would you rather have? Would you rather have ace-3 suited, 3-betting in position, or ace-7 offsuit out of position, and you've been 3-bet? Do you really want the slightly better hand in exchange for the far worse spot? Please. But now at least we're getting somewhere with him, because he's crying that I won't chop with him. So after he says that, I said, well, I've never had any friends. And then he says, oh, really? Well, they're good to have. Then a lull goes by, probably a minute or less. And then I say to him my default line, which is, if I want to chop, I can just stay home. And the player next to him laughed. And then I said, I didn't come all the way to the casino just to not play the hand. I can do that from my living room. And he's just like laughing. He's like, oh yeah, I hear you. So it wasn't too bad between us. But then he asks me a little while later, he's like, so what part of town do you live in? I said, what makes you think I live here? And he said, tell me where around town you're from, and I'll tell you why I think that. And I said, no. It hit me a few hours later that what gave it away was when I said I didn't come all the way to the casino just to chop, and then I could have just stayed home. That doesn't necessarily guarantee I'm from Vegas, but I can see how it would look that way, and because it was that way, and pretty sure that's what tipped this guy off. But only he knows. But I was still so mad he showed that 3 like he's trying to showboat how aggressive he is. And I wanted to bluff him so bad off a big pot because I was going to show him and then say, this is when you show the bluff. Not after some stupid 3-bet in a tiny plot, blind versus blind. But the opportunity never came. Things began to escalate a little bit. There's an early position raise to 10, just from some young white fellow in a Chicago Bears jersey. I think it was number 95. Who wears 95 on the Bears? I 3-bet to 30. He calls. Flop comes 10-10-7 rainbow. He checks, and I bet 22. He calls. Turn is a 10, and he checks, and now really thinking what I want to do. I mean, I kind of don't want to bet and make him fold worse hands. Plus, I'm afraid he's going to call with the better ones. But he just like looked like he's in the driver's seat. Not like he's comfortable, just like he was really tense, like, holy shit, like, is this the one? Like, what's he going to do? I mean, so that made me think that he's weak, but not necessarily folding. Now, he had like 200 left. He had like 2 times the pot, but I just checked. And the river was a jack. Not really a great card, but it's better than a fucking undercard. He checks, and he's got this same uptightness, like he's really staring me down, and I'm finding this to be a very reliable tell. When people are like really staring you down, they are fucking weak. I'm not saying it's an absolute. I'm saying, like, if you're trying to make a decision and, you know, flash a quick glance at your opponent, if you think you catch him staring at you intently, like, what are you going to do? It tends to be weak, and they're hoping you don't do it. So I just decide, fuck it, I'll take a shot and jam, even though I'm really worried this is going to get called. And I bet the 200 all in, and as soon as I do it, he's like, I was going to call any size except that one. That's good to hear, but he hasn't let his hand go yet. And he's thinking, and he's thinking, and he's thinking. It did seem like he was going to fold, though, but it was a little long tank, and then he folded. As I'm mucking my cards, I say, this is a bluff, but I'm not going to prove it. And he immediately says, I believe it. And that's another little default of mine. You should try it sometime. It's fun. Only he said he believes me. Usually they don't believe you. Then a minute later he asks, he's like, did I have ace king? I'm like, yeah. Next hand, I raise 15 with 10-9 of diamonds, and the white girl calls in the big blind. Let's call her Sabrina. So the flop is 5, 6, 7 rainbow. I got the backdoor flush draw. She check raises me from 15 to 50. Now this is annoying because I would much rather the flop be something like 6, 7 deuce. So if I hit the 8, I have the stone nuts and there's no 4-liner out there. If I hit the 8, I feel like it's not going to connect with her having a straight that much unless she flopped it. So it's going to be hard to really cold deck her that way. It's just going to look more imposing that there's a 4-liner straight out there, and it could be tough to get called. You know, having the added bonus of it being the nuts is not going to factor in that much. So that sucks. But with the backdoor flush draw and maybe being able to bluff if a 4 comes, and plus I could win with a 10 or 9. I mean, I'm not holding my breath on that, but it's possible. So I call, the turn is a deuce, and now she checks. Now, it's not a diamond. I mean, diamond or not a diamond, I think I'm just checking back. Although I was very surprised to see this. I mean, you don't see too much check raise checking on blank cards going on at 1-3. So, all right, I try and get lucky, check back. It's another 7, and then she bets like 100. I don't know, I folded. But this is what I meant before when I was saying she does some things that you don't normally see like this and go check raise check, you know, and that could be a strength. That could really work for her at times. Doesn't mean she's good at poker. And we know this to be especially true after I see her massively overplay ace-king against this nitty-looking Chinese kid. I didn't watch the whole hand, but I want to say the Chinese kid limp called her raise. Let's call the Chinese kid, let's name him Devon. So Devon limp calls, and then the flop was king 10, 5. He check calls, turn is a 9, he check raises her, and she 3-bet jams. He snap calls, and all she has is ace-king, top pair. And wasn't drawing dead. He had kings and 9s. He had king 9 off. And obviously a very unlucky turn for Sabrina. But her play on the turn is terrible. I mean, she can bet or check if she wants, but it is a clear fold once Devon check raises her. All right, this is not a call. Definitely not a rejam. This is a fold. Then I raise king 10 off to 15 in the low jack. And Sabrina calls from one of the blinds. The flop is king 7 king rainbow. She checked, and I almost checked back, but I bet 12, and she check raises to 30. I call. Turn was nothing. I think it was a 3, and now she checks. So we have another check raise check. And because the stacks are not super deep, I expect to be able to get it in on a ton of rivers, whether she's got a king or not. I mean, I can check back and still stack her kings on the river, or I can get a street on the river against bluffs, or if she improves to second pair or something. So I check back. River is a queen. She bets 40. And I go all in for like her last like 150, 180, 200, and she snap faults. Then she raises to 10, calls a 3-bet to 30. She's out of position. Flop is 10, 10, 10. She check calls. Turn is whatever. She check calls. The guy went all in. And immediately turns over 10-9 offsuit, flopping quads. Oh, tough game. But you can see why she thinks she's a good player. Because she spews and makes 4 of a kind. So then there's 2 limps. I raise to 21 with ace-jack off on the button. Small blind thinks a bit and folds. This was the guy who showed the 3 after 3-betting me in the blind versus blind. You could tell he wanted to again this time, but this time he's out of position and he knows he showed the 3, and I think that's what deterred him from doing it, which is precisely why I said it was stupid for him to show. Although I ended up not taunting him about this after the hand. But anyway, we go 4 ways. Flop is ace, queen, 4, 2 hearts. One of the limpers, he's a new face. He donks 40. I make it 110. The big blind calls all in for 84. Next guy thinks for a while and folds. And then the donker, he thinks for a while and show folds his cards to the other side of the table. I didn't see what he had. Board runs out of 3 and another queen, a backdoor flush hit, but ace-jack was good. Then I saw Sabrina win another nice-sized pot with ace-king, where she flopped top pair, bet, checked the turn out of position, and bet 100 on the river. So that's like kind of her thing. She likes to be aggressive on the flop and then slow down on the turn. But more importantly were the sizing tells. She was blatantly using 15 with strong hands and 10 with everything else. So between flopping quads and this hand, now she's up to about 5 to 600 again and was tightening up. But I still wanted to get her so bad and was prepared to stay all night if that's what it took, even though 2 hours is usually the absolute most of 1-3 I can stomach before I want to castrate myself. But on we go. So then there was an issue with the dealer. The Chinese kid, Devon, he got into a pot with somebody. He had raised pre, and flop was whatever. It's multi-way, and I heard him say 50. He's in seat 9, and I was in seat 6, so he's directly across from me. And he cut out 40, though, and I saw him look out at the board like, oh, shit, I only put out 40, even though he said 50. And you could tell this guy doesn't speak English very well and seemed uncomfortable with trying to tell the dealer that he said 50 but only bet 40, and no one was saying anything about him having bet 50. So it looked like he was just going to let it go. But then I said to the dealer, I said, I think he said 50. And then he starts nodding his head, and I tell the dealer, like, he said 50. And the dealer was like, I didn't hear anything. I was like, I heard him. So he let the 50 stand, and then Devon gets raised, and he folds, so he just ends up losing more because of me. So I try to help him and end up costing him more money. But at the time, he was glad his $50 bet stood, since that's what he intended. So good for me. But then the dealer was like, I don't know why they don't say it louder. They say it like a mouse. So now he's blaming the player for this. He was the one who wasn't paying attention. So I said to him, I was like, I have mouse ears. I mean, I'm sitting further away from the guy than you are. If I can hear him, that means you can hear him. You were not paying attention. I mean, I didn't say that, but I'm fucking thinking the shit out of this because what the fuck? It looked bad enough when he didn't hear him. He didn't have to complain about it when someone sitting further away says he heard him. Like, I wasn't just saying shit. I was like, I think he said 50. Let the man bet what he wanted to bet. If the dealer were paying attention, he would have clarified and say, what, did you say something? And he'd say, yeah, 50. And boom, $50 bet. And me and my mouse ears don't have to get involved. So then the guy who wanted to know where around Vegas I lived left the game. Hope he doesn't try to slaughter me. And the man who replaces him on his left is wearing a black Dodger hat and a black Dodger shirt. And at one point he was joking with somebody on his left about something. And then he referenced to me, he said, this guy. And it didn't seem aggressive at all, but my head was kind of down. I only saw it like peripherally. So I look up, I was like, huh? He said nothing. I said, oh, okay. I wasn't even combative this time. That was the way I said it. Then he's like, you all right? I was like, yeah, you all right? He's like, yeah. I said, good. Thought he was going to say more. He looked at me like he thought maybe I was giving him an attitude, but I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even do it this time. But, you know, it's just got to be the radiation. I mean, because like I went into this game just wanting to fuck with people. And even though I wasn't fucking with him at all this time, because I want to fuck with people, you know, he's probably picking up on some of that. But that wasn't even going on this time. I was just trying to understand what was being said. I didn't have an opinion yet. How can I have an opinion when I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about? Which brings us to the crescendo. So Sabrina had begun to lose money again, and I thought she would start spewing, although she actually didn't spew as hard as I thought she was going to. But still, her nose looks a little open, and now she raises to 15, so she's got a strong hand this time, and there's a call, and I got queens in the small blind. And she's under 300 deep at this point, so I know I can go big. I'll probably use just like a standard big size, I guess, but I was afraid to go too big because she had tightened up. And I was going card dead at various points in this, so I'm not sure what players think of me, but I think it could just be at times I'm maybe getting on people's nerves a little bit, so that might cause them to give you action when they shouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm waiting for the moment to 3-bet her big for value, and now I'm like kind of afraid to do it because I'm afraid she's going to fold. So I make it 70, which, whatever, it's not a mistake. It's just funny that I didn't go to like 85. But she thinks a little bit and calls, and the other guy folds. She's got under a pot-size bet left, or maybe a little more. The flop is Queen Jack 10, 2 hearts. Wow. All right. I don't know why I didn't go all in. I just bet 100, and then she goes all in. I call. So now it's time to run it, and there's going to be a lot of scare cards unless the board pairs, which it does on the turn. Queen of diamonds. 4 of a kind. Wow. How you doing now, Sabrina? What you got this time? Now you're about to be against the quads. Then the river is the 10 of diamonds. Was I scared? No, I wasn't scared. But there are now 3 combos that I can lose to. Ace, King of diamonds. 8, 9 of diamonds. King, 9 of diamonds. All these hands are getting in on the flop. At the same time, probably not, though, because if she's opening to 15, then chances are Ace, King of diamonds is the only straight flush combo she can possibly have on this board. If she had King 9 or 8 9, she probably only makes it 10. And since I 3-bet her, she might just rip it in with Ace King of diamonds. At that point, I think she would. And who could blame her? So since she didn't 4-bet jam, and since she raised to 15, it really disqualifies pretty much all 3 of those straight flush combinations. But I don't know that factually. So after that river comes, and when she's turning her hand over, I just say, I might lose. She turns over Ace Jack of hearts, so she missed her royal flush draw. So even though as this one royal flush card and multi-straight flush card falls, and she doesn't have it, she was going for the other one. So I win this rather close situation on the flop. And when I said I might lose, I mean, I guess it gave her some hope. I mean, what hope can she fucking have on this run out, though? What does she think turning over Ace Jack is going to beat? You have the hearts. You lose to kings, aces, queens, jacks, tens, ace king, 8, 9. I mean, just everything. I mean, she could have just mucked her hand and probably very small chance that she threw away the fucking best hand. I turned my hand over, and people were like, oh, quads. I think people are a little confused at first. And then I heard someone say something about a straight flush. So, look, I wasn't like being a huge dick. I really wasn't. I was like being funny about the fact, taking my moment. I'm not going to slow roll her. All I did was state a fact. That river brought in not 1, not 2, but 3 hands that beat me. Now, yeah, she's going to have dozens of other ones. I mean, but it wasn't like this fractional chance she has a fucking straight flush. It's not like a situation where we got all in on like ace 3, 6, and then a 4 comes and she has 5 deuce of hearts, and that's her fucking straight flush when I have a higher flush. I mean, it's like, that's not the situation. And plus, not to mention this, hello. Has something ever happened? Have you ever thought something was going to happen and then something else happened? Has that ever happened to you once? It reminds me of that section in the Poker for Dummies book. It talks about what a bad beat is, and it says, most players have a bad beat story. Okay, so not every single one, but most people who play poker have a bad beat story. This one time, they got a lot of money in, big favorite, and they lost. Just that one time. Doesn't even happen to everybody. So, was I nervous when that 10 of diamonds rolled off? A little bit. Because I've been having the zaniest fucking year with 1 outer, 2 outer, 1 outer, 1 outer, cash card. Like just cards that create fireworks that blow your fucking face off when there's like only 1 or 2 of them left. Those have been falling the whole fucking year. So who's to say that it hasn't happened again? I mean, I gave you all the reasons why she shouldn't have king 9 or 8 9. That doesn't mean she's not going to. I told you she's going to jam with ace king of diamonds, 4-bet jam. That doesn't mean she's going to. She could have had it. I turn 4 of a kind and get literally the worst river in the deck in terms of finishing the job here. The 10 of diamonds was the only river that would create 3 straight flush combos for me to lose to. So that's sick in its own right. But she lost. And I got what I wanted. I stacked Sabrina. And the guy I bluffed with ace king, he had showed... by the way, I forgot to mention, he show folded pocket 5s. So he got stacked by someone else, came back a little while later, and then he was sitting behind her. So I guess they were together, but I couldn't tell when they were playing. So she sees my hand, and I think... it seems like I hurt her feelings. Like, because she didn't go crazy, but like, she's leaving, and then she said something like, C4 is an asshole. I was looking down at this point, and I was sitting in seat 6, so she had the orientation of the table wrong, but pretty sure she meant me. And I look up, I asked the dealer, I was like, what just happened? And the dealer is someone who knows me. She's a nice, good dealer. She just has an extremely loud voice. And it was just funny. I was like, what happened? She's like, nothing. I was like, all right. I mean, I knew exactly what happened, but I just let it go. Just enjoying the moments. There have been a lot of painful moments to have to take lately at poker, so trying to get the most out of each victory. I mean, it's like, this is small stakes. You know, it's not like we're playing for big money here. I mean, I left shortly after that because she left. The game was still fine, but it's like, I got my fucking fix. I offset my my $900-something downswing at 1-3. I was getting very annoyed about that. You know, over the space of the last 30-ish hours, I don't know what it is. That got me out of it as I'm getting over this seasonal under-the-weather change situation. But all right, that'll do it for this week. Talk to you soon, guys. See you next time.